Hello there, my name is Jayney Goddard. I'm president of the Complementary Medical Association, and I want to give you a very, very warm welcome to this online training, which is all about ways that you can learn how to set up online training courses. Now, of course, at this time of COVID-19, this is hugely relevant because what I really want to emphasize is the fact that if you are the type of practitioner who is fortunate enough to still be able to run a practice, perhaps, let's say, homeopath, perhaps, let's say, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, and so on, you can still work with people one-to-one, online, and so on. But what do we do for those practitioners who are hands-on practitioners, the massage practitioners, the chiropractors, osteopaths, and so on? You guys, I know, are having a super hard time. So we've been thinking here about what we can do to support you, because that's what we're all about is, you know the CMA is a non-profit organization. You know that we are practitioners and we're doing all of this work within the CMA to support you. So we've been thinking, and we realize that what we have to do is teach you how to pivot your offering at the moment, regardless of what you offer in complementary medicine, to enable you to still be able to operate in some way to keep your practice going and alive. Essentially, to provide you with tools that are relevant for now so that you can continue to support the people that you love to work with, and to put your brilliant work out there and your amazing expertise out there, but also to give you options for other streams of income and other arms of work once COVID-19 is over and done with, and hopefully a long and distant memory. So let's give you a little bit of background. Why should you listen to anything I have to say? Well, the answer is because I've been at this some time. I founded the CMA back in gosh, what was it, 1993, which means that the CMA has been going now for 27 years. It's extraordinary, but there you go. I've been practicing for well over 3 decades myself. I started off training in homeopathic medicine, and the reason I set up the CMA, and there are lots of videos about this over on the CMA's YouTube channel, so I'm not going to go too much in depth about it all, but I think it's helpful for you to have some background so you know that the information we're sharing today is deeply, deeply credible, and that there is a foundation of real knowledge base, genuine knowledge base to what I'm actually going to be talking about to you today. So what's happened is that over the, well, we started off and I set up the CMA in response to the fact there was nothing being done to really promote professionalism within the complementary medical field. There were a handful of organizations that existed, and they really tended to exist in order to supply insurance to practitioners. They didn't really have much going on out there to really help the public and doctors fully understand what constituted absolute excellence within the complementary medical field. Similarly, it was a bit of a cowboy industry because there were practitioners out there who were pretty much untrained and sticking a posh brass plaque up outside their front door and claiming to be able to cure all sorts of ills. Now, then there were the likes of me who'd done 7-year trainings, and my colleagues and so on, who'd gone about it the right way, as I know you have. And so, we really needed to have a way to get that information out there and to show the world that CMA members are a force to be reckoned with and that represent the absolute utmost in professionalism and excellence within this field. So in the CMA, we register practitioners, students, training schools, and we accredit courses. We also have very senior members of the CMA who are fellows of the CMA. And if you're a CMA member, you might want to consider upgrading your membership to that because it has a lot more advantages. We also recognize other associations and support other associations. And we also register companies, so CMA approved suppliers. And we also register clinics, spas, and retreats. And the common denominator amongst all of these is that every single person or organization that is registered by the CMA has a deep and absolute commitment to excellence within this field. So that's where we're coming from. Now, over the many years that I've been working within the field as a practitioner, but also, of course, as president of the Complementary Medical Association, I have seen every permutation of practice there is. I've seen every single version of training school you could possibly imagine, online, offline. I'm an avid online course taker myself, and so I've seen kind of every version of what exists and what works and what doesn't. So that's why I'm coming at this from a really kind of evidence-based perspective. Interestingly enough, when I did my Master of Science MSc training, what actually happened was that I did a distance learning through the University of Central Lancashire. Now, they are now one of the world's leading online training organizations, universities that offer online training. I did my master's with them. I'm going to do my doctorate with them because, again, they offer this incredible online facility for people to be able to train. And it's very interesting because I think that this is something that we need to grasp. There was always this thought about whether online training was legitimate or not, and we're going to talk a little bit about that during the actual training presentation itself. So without further ado, what I want to do is to get the training launched. I'm going to click on my screen share here and go into my presentation here. Right, okay, so you should see that loud and clear. And the other thing I just want to point out to you is at some point at the very beginning, a couple of slides in, you'll see that I suddenly magically changed clothes. You are not seeing things, I promise you. What actually happened was that when we did the online training last Friday, what actually happened was that I was so astonished at the numbers of you trying to get into the seminar itself. Literally, I think we were close to 400 people trying to get in, and the training that we'd set up only allowed 100 people in. And honestly, I had no idea that it was going to be so popular. So in my absolute astonishment, I forgot to press the record button. So anyway, I know you won't mind. I know you won't mind the continuity glitch. It's COVID time. Everything is kind of weird and goes out the window. So forgive me for that. But let's get cracking anyway with the training. So here we go. Funny enough, one of the things I just wanted to point out was that, as I say, I have my master's degree. In fact, my dissertation was looking at those factors that enable practitioners to thrive or not thrive in practice, both personally and professionally. So I am so passionate about practice development and running courses and what makes people really, really effective and really successful. So yeah, I'm really geeking out on all of this stuff, and I hope that you will be enthused as well. And you'll start to look at a lot of the information I'm really giving you here and sharing with you here as being valuable evidence-based information. And in fact, actually, one of my other sort of geeky areas is actually education. So one of the parts of my master's training was actually looking at course delivery and education delivery. So yeah, you know, you're going to get so geeked out on this whole thing, but the information I'm giving you is really valid and evidence-based. And I think it's so important for you to know that. Okay, so let's move on. What are we talking about today? My goal for this course is to give you an overview of teaching online. I want to give you some key concepts to consider, and we're going to talk about some of the very best practices out there so that you have a solid foundation in creating your own successful online courses. So why, first of all, should we do online courses? Well, as I said at the top of this recording, we need to pivot at this time so that you are able to keep your practice going regardless of what you're doing. I would love, because I know that you've got enormous expertise. You are the unique expert in your field. You may be a nutritionist, and there may be a nutritionist down the road, but you know what? You have the most amazing take on what you do. You've got a specialism, and I guarantee if you think hard enough, you will find a niche that is really relevant to what you do, and it'll be totally different to what everybody else does. We'll talk about a little bit more about this a little bit later in the training. But I also just want to say to you that over on my Jayney Goddard Masterclasses CMA, Jayney Goddard Masterclasses Facebook group. I've got loads of amazingly useful videos and worksheets for you to work through. So if you're not a member of that group, please go over and join it. The details to sign up will be at the end of this video. I give you all the contact details. So do join me there as well, because I've got so much info that I've recorded and created for you to work through. It's really useful. It will help you. So doing online courses is hugely important for the reasons we spoke about earlier, which are really essentially ways for you to expand your reach. So why offer them right now? Well, of course, obviously, because lots of people are looking for online training because they're looking either to pump up what they're currently offering, or they're looking at ways of, if they're in practice, actually pivoting so that you can offer online trainings to people. So again, it's all driven by this COVID situation, but let's look at the silver lining in this awful situation. And lastly, let's talk about, is online training any good, respectable? Is it viable? Yes, it is respectable and viable. The first big online trainers, of course, or distance learning courses, because they were distance learning before they were online, was of course the Open University. Now they are an immensely respected organization. So when people say, oh, I don't know about online training, is it really, you know, is it a bit dodgy, is it a bit sketchy? No, it really truly isn't. There are so many organizations and respected universities, even the big ones, the Oxbridges and the Harvards and the Yales and so on. They're all offering online now. When I did my master's training, we had some unbelievably eminent surgeons on that course, people that couldn't just give up their career and fly in from Egypt. We had some incredible people in Denmark and Sweden, and again, amazingly eminent people who needed the training. They couldn't just up sticks and give up their practice. So they did it online, and it worked brilliantly. So online is viable. Please believe that. Don't believe it. Don't take for granted anything that anybody may say to try to convince you of the contrary. So this is more or less where we picked up in the other training before I remembered to press the record button. So there are different types of training available, and we're going to next talk about how you should structure your course. So I'm going to sign off from this bit now, and we're going to splice the big training on to this bit right now. Thank you so much for joining me, and stay tuned because we're going to start the next section right away. That's it. Back into Zoom for a moment. Okay, right, so I'm going to share my screen again. Lovely, and where are we? There we are. Okay, so this synchronous course, so synchronous, as I just said, is where we all start and all finish at the same time. An asynchronous course is where a course is up online, and what actually happens is that people can start and stop whenever they want to. And then of course you get hybrid courses, which is where you may have an asynchronous element. So the course material is out there online, people can do it at their own pace and time, but that you may have bits where you say to everybody, right guys, we're all getting together online to have this group meeting at this particular time, and you fully expect your students to be there and then. And let's just talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each. Synchronous training is great. It means that you can plan for your time. So why I like synchronous training is because you say to everybody, you publicize your course, you get the information out there, and you say, okay, everybody, we're starting the course on this date at this time, and we're finishing the course on this date at this time, and I'm going to want to meet with you online here, 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 and here. So you can block all of that out in your diary. Okay, and so you know precisely how you're going to organize your life for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, or what have you. So that is fantastic, and it means you've got a particular time commitment, and it really helps you. It prevents burnout, and it enables you to think about also planning other elements and other course launches. However, the flip side is if you put up an asynchronous course, also known as an evergreen course, it means that that course is running in the background. And you know how you'll see a lot of online presenters talking about how to make money while you sleep, or, you know, do things on the beach, you know, sort of get your training up and you can relax on the beach and just work from your laptop and travel the world and all those fantastic ideas which really don't work, because if you're working on the beach, you'll get so much sun glare on your screen you wouldn't be able to see a computer anyway. Believe me, I have tried. Anyway, so the point is that an evergreen course is out there, it's ongoing. With an evergreen course, they are fantastic and they will help you to bring income in on an ongoing basis. But it does mean that I recommend that you don't incorporate elements where you're expecting people to be with you at certain times, because if the course is just running in an evergreen, asynchronous way, what actually happens is that you just have no light at the end of the tunnel. Essentially what's happening is that you've just got no end to it and it becomes absolutely exhausting for you. So I just want to flag that up as a possibility. Okay, so let's talk about some of the benefits of online learning. By the way, guys, just want to say, after I've gone through the learning side of things, there will be opportunities for Q&A, and I know quite a few have actually emailed me with questions already. So we will be able to take questions afterwards. So if there's any burning question, write it down or make a note in the chat box, and that will be great. I'll be able to get to it afterwards. So the benefits of online learning, as I said earlier, you don't need to be present in any particular location. You could work from your laptop on the beach. The interesting thing I find about teaching on courses online is that you get more learner to instructor and learner to learner interactions online, which is really quite interesting. Most people feel empowered to ask questions, offer opinions, contribute, especially introverted learners and those who need time to think before they respond. Now, you don't get that in the real world because a lot of time people might be shy. If they're introverted, they're not the ones who are going to put their hands up and ask questions necessarily. So actually, online learning is more inclusive, and it actually helps all of those people who may not otherwise engage. So other benefits are technical skills. You'll find that this develops your technical skills in students. They learn technology, uploading and downloading files, accessing web resources, troubleshooting technical issues, networking. Your learners will become comfortable and confident with technology. And what's really good is that many of those skills are transferable into other areas of their lives, which is really helpful, really very valuable actually. Also for you, there are lower costs associated with online learning, lower facility costs, electricity, paper, desks, etc., etc., etc. So, those are some pretty huge advantages to consider. Now, there are some downsides. Of course, there is a lack of face-to-face communication. It can get lonely, not just for you, but also for your learners. And learners can become demotivated. So I've got some strategies for you to keep your learners really engaged. But it happens to us teachers as well. Teaching online is more work initially, especially when you're teaching a course for the first time. Putting a course together takes a lot of thinking and input, but it does get easier over time. If you do it correctly, online education provides equal or even higher quality education opportunities in many situations. So it is a very valuable thing to be able to do. So what are the resources you'll need to teach online? Well, obviously you'll need digital access, prepare your course resources, communicate, give feedback, track progress. You'll do it all online, of course. You'll need a desktop or laptop. You'll need a mobile device, a phone or a pad, anything like that. The research currently shows that more people access the internet, including courses, via their device more so than on computer. So one of the things we're going to talk about are the different learning platforms, and whether or not they are the sorts of things that you can actually teach on, because of this limitation about whether people, whether people can access what you're teaching via their phone or their device. Okay, so we'll come to that in a moment. As I said, most people use mobile devices to access the web. It's important to view the course from their perspective once in a while. Most learning management systems, I'm going to talk about what those are in a mo, let you view your course as if you're on different platforms. So this will enable you to monitor your user experience. It's shortened to UX if you want to sound really hip and geeky and down with the youth. But user experience will do just fine for these purposes. Okay. So your students' user experience is absolutely crucial to the success of your course. Now, most course platforms grasp this and have tutorials on how to best present your course so that your students are successful, engaged, excited about learning with you, and likely to do more of your courses. So this is one of the wonderful things that you can do. Whilst you're teaching a particular course, you can be monitoring how well that current course is doing, spotting other needs within your student body, and starting to think about creating courses to answer those other needs and requirements. So every informational transaction is useful data for you for other future course planning. Okay, so we're going to talk about the equipment that we need. First of all, you'll need video and audio content. And if you're producing those, and I recommend both of those for your training course, you'll need access to recording devices, of course. It's entirely up to you and your budget, whatever you can afford. You will need a robust internet connection if you're delivering live sessions such as this one. Now, I happen to be looking after my mum at the moment, so I'm actually working at Mummy's in Berkshire, where it's actually Silicon Valley, and they have a really fast internet system here. If I was down at my office in Hastings, I have to always plug into my system with a LAN cable. And so I literally I've ordered that cable online, you plug it into your computer, and then you plug it into your router so that you have a wired connection, not a wireless connection. That's incredibly important. It makes a huge difference to the quality of the information that you put across. And you've got to remember, as that old advertising saying, the medium is the message. And what that means is that the quality of what you're putting out is really crucial to the way that your message is perceived. Can I just make a reminder to everybody, if you could possibly just click on your little screen and mute yourself, that would be tremendous, because I'm getting quite a lot of background noise and it's actually interfering with the feed. That's it. If you have any problems muting yourself, just see if Roberta can possibly do that, because I know she's in the group. So what are the other pieces of equipment that you might need? Well, you might want a USB microphone. The quality of your sound has huge impact on perceived quality of your instruction. Now, I use a USB mic when I'm making meditations, for example. Many of my courses actually have meditation sessions and so on. And so what actually happens with that is that I set up almost like a little kind of makeshift recording studio with foam all around my computer and around my microphone, particularly around and over the top of my microphone. You can buy a decent mic online. I mean, I hate to say it, but I got mine on Amazon and it works just fine. But I will say a computer microphone doesn't work, because all computers have a background hiss to them. And if you get that background hiss, when your user is listening or your learner is listening on a headset, that hiss can become incredibly annoying. So just bear in mind that, you know, recording and recording quality is very, very important. But if we're just speaking to each other like now, if you were teaching a course and speaking to your learners as I'm speaking to you now, there may be a slight hiss, but it's not terribly aggravating. You may not even be picking it up, because I'm teaching on Zoom, as you know, and Zoom has a way of blocking out ambient noise like air conditioners and so on. So it'd be interesting to know whether you're picking anything up. Okay, finally, you'll need video editing or audio editing software if you plan to record your own content. Now, I will say something at this point. One of the reasons that people don't do online training courses is because they procrastinate, because they get paralyzed by perfectionism. Give me a thumbs up if this has ever happened to you, where you think, oh, I can't go out there because it's got to be really perfect. It's got to be the best it can possibly be. Yes, okay, so I'm getting a few thumbs up there. You know, the thing is, actually, I started off like, I'm a terrible one for perfectionism, absolutely dreadful. It's a real pathology with me, and I've worked very, very hard to actually get over that. The thing is, I believe that what you put out is good enough, and you can always improve. There's an awful lot to be said for the power of your learners and their supporting you and getting your learners on board. So we'll come to that, all of that in a moment. But I started off thinking that I needed the very, very, very best equipment and so on, the very best camera, this and this and this. And actually, it's got to the point now where I have dropped recording on my phone, because I bought a fantastic iPhone to do videoing. I now record everything, and I'm doing this on my computer via Zoom, because A, it's faster, it's easier, it's less complicated. The recording is actually saved on your computer. It just makes life so much easier. But why not? Why not make life easy for yourself? The one thing you will need is a really, really good light, though. You've got to have good lighting. Ambient lighting, like your ceiling lights and lamps and so on, will not cut it. You need a ring light. You will not believe how big ring lights are and how bright they are. You need an 18-inch ring light minimum, with LEDs all around it. I can send you the one that I use. In fact, I will send you the details for that. I've tried all sorts, and I've had to send many, many back. There's one that I really love. It comes complete with a tripod, so it's totally adjustable. I'll send you the details for that, because it's incredibly useful to know. Okay, next. So let's talk about the learning management system platforms. What are they, and which is best? I'm going to have a sip of my tea. Right, okay, I've got such lovely green tea today. It's absolutely gorgeous. Righty-ho. So, learning management systems, LMSs, we're going to just call them learning platforms, because that's kind of the way I think of them nowadays. There are various out there, as I'm sure you know. I've looked at all of them, and I've actually come down to two, which I'll tell you about at the end. But what these do, if you haven't used them yet and you're not familiar with them, is that they sell your courses. They process your payments. They share your resources. So basically, you gather all your resources together, you put them into the learning management system, so you can upload your videos, upload your audio, upload your written components, and so on. So that's sharing your resources. Excuse me, I'm just going to move this. They help you to communicate and collaborate with your learners. They deliver feedback to your learners through testing and that sort of thing. They help you track the progress of your learners, and of course also help your learners track their own progress. And they administer tests if relevant. And finally, I don't want you to reinvent the wheel. There are fantastic systems out there, so don't think that you have to gather all this tech together. You really don't. What actually happens is that I would recommend a couple of systems for you to look at. I'm not affiliated with any of them. I just want you to know that I'm not giving you affiliate links here or anything tacky like that. This is all, as I said, it's all completely free information. This is just for you. So what I want you to think about is accessibility. I want you to think about using a learning management system that combines all of those features in one easy to access place, so that your course is, let me just move this, accessible, better organized, easier to navigate, excellent user experience. And which ones would these be? Well, I've looked at all of them, and I think there are the two easiest to use are Teachable and Kajabi. The price points of both of those are about the same. You're going to be looking at around, they're priced in US dollars because they're international systems and most people sort of seem to understand what a dollar is, or the value of a dollar. So they run to about $90, $99 per month, depending on how many bells and whistles you actually need. But what's really nice is that they are a one-stop shop, and they're incredibly user-friendly, and they have wonderful tutorials, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So the next question really is that I'm often asked, how computer literate do I need to be able to teach online and use a learning management system or a learning platform? You don't have to be a geek at all. It's surprising how much help you can get from your peers and even students. And of course, there's always YouTube as well. If you're finding that your Teachable or your Kajabi platform doesn't have the answers you need, although there are loads and loads of people within those platforms and on their Facebook groups who can always help you through something and help you to answer questions. If you also foster a sense of collaboration and community among your users, it's amazing how forgiving people will actually be. Because if, you know, we're all mucking in at this time of COVID, aren't we? People are doing the most amazing things. My friend Fiona is doing the most incredible harp recitals every night, pretty much every night, in her living room, sometimes in her gym jams, and people are tuning in from all over the world. You know, we've got Gareth Malone's choir, we've got Captain Tom. I mean, you know, look at Captain Tom and what he's achieved. You know, it's just, everything is bizarre and quite amazing. And some of these things that are happening, I know there's ghastly things out there that are happening. Of course there are, and I'm not minimizing those in any way. But what I am saying is that there are some wonderful things that are happening that I really hope we will be able to carry on after COVID. And so if you are running into problems on your course, everybody at the moment is very forgiving. They don't expect you to be slick and professional and really have all of the answers, because this is as new for you as it is for them. So don't ever be worried that you have to be absolutely so spot on. If you run into trouble, you can always say to your learners, hey guys, I need to do this. I don't know how. There's bound to be somebody in your group who knows exactly how to do it. So what are the skills that you'll need to teach online? Well, you'll need instructional design skills. What does that really mean? Well, it means that it infers that you need to know your subject matter well enough in order to be able to understand how to create a sensible course. Now, obviously, if you didn't know your subject matter well enough, I don't think you'd be tuning into this training, because the point I want to get across to you is that you are the absolute expert in your field. So what that means is that you've got such a unique take on what you do. You may do the same thing as somebody else. You may be a nutritionist, you may be an acupuncturist, you may be doing reflexology, you may be doing psychotherapy, certainly you may be a homeopath. But the point is, you have your own take, your own specialization, and your own unique expertise. So that's what I want you to bring to this. And so when you think about instructional design, that's where I want you to come from. Of course, you need organizational skills, you need great time management, and you need online communication skills. And that really depends on the types of teaching that you want to do. Do you want video elements? Do you want audio elements? Do you want writing elements? I personally think all of those are good, because again, all of those learners, as I said right at the very beginning of this video, we all have different learning styles. So if you think about those different learning styles, you're actually, by having all of those different elements, you're actually hitting all of those learning styles, and you'll get a lot more engagement out of your students. Okay. So what I want to think about is the advantage of rapport building. It's crucial to a successful course. Your ability to get your learners to take part in discussions and, navigating away from that, and I didn't want to do that. Your ability to get your learners to open up, engage, collaborate with other students, and to feel comfortable asking questions does have a massive impact and largely determines the success of your course. So I suggest, and this works brilliantly, creating a getting to know you page. So it's really good. So that it helps your students understand that you're a real person and that they can, in a safe and they're in a safe, non-judgmental space, and they'll be able to introduce themselves as well. Now, the advantage of helping them to understand that you're a real person actually takes a lot of stress out of the whole teaching experience, not for them, but also not just for them, but also for you as well. Okay, it's very important. I also would always send people your bio and explain, as I did earlier at the top of this broadcast, explain a little bit about why they should be listening to you, what your field of expertise is, and why you are credible in this field. Because once they understand that, you get better buy-in. They really understand where you're coming from. Send your picture. The research, and you know, I never give you any information unless I have fully researched it. The research shows that if you send a message out from you that also has a picture of you, the response and the buy-in that you get, I'm not talking about financial buy-in, but I'm talking about emotional engagement and interactivity and connectivity, is dramatically enhanced. And it's all about being real and being authentic. And this is another reason why your videos, especially at this time of COVID, don't have to be so fantastically slick and professional. As long as they're well lit and people can see you, that's fabulous. But you know, we are, as I said earlier, we are kind of all mucking in. We're all doing the best we can right at the moment. And so by being natural, you become relatable, you become authentic, and people get your authenticity. So don't worry about being too slick and professional. It doesn't have to be. As long as the information you're sharing is really good, your actual presentation has got to be as good as it can be, but don't get hung up on absolute perfectionism. So one of the things I do suggest you do to create engagement is to create a closed Facebook group, much as I have with my Jayney Goddard Masterclasses Facebook group, which is, of course, is all about business building, practice growth, and so on. And also, of course, things like the Complementary Medical Association closed members-only Facebook group. In those groups, you can really foster discussion and create group energy. So in those groups, what do you do? Well, I strongly suggest you ask questions. It fosters discussion. You've got to stay engaged. Stay active and show your interest in your learners. Don't ghost them. Don't post discussion questions and then promptly disappear. Reply to your learners' posts and generate deeper conversations. And engage, engage, engage. That's so, so important. Set guidelines and expectations. So one of the most important things that people need to know before they can actually make a buying decision is how they will participate. Do they need a computer? Can the course be completed on a mobile device? You need to tell them all of this. Make sure learners know your expectations and that all of these points have a written, excuse me one second. They have a written policy. I've got something obscuring the side of my screen. So yeah, it's really important to know that they have a written policy. Because you may at some point need to refer back to this. Be super explicit about your rules and expectations. So for example, if you say to people, right, okay, everybody, I need you to do this particular piece of work by 3 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon, and I need you to submit it before 3 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon, don't be at all surprised if you get 10 people submitting their work at 2:59 p.m. Explain to them that it's not going to help you, it's not going to work. You've got to be really, really careful and really explicit about what your expectations are, so that they can actually work with you. So also be very clear about how much time realistically they need to spend doing the course. So if your course is one that they could go through within an intensive week, that's great. I signed up for a course recently, and it was a very, very high level course. It said you could, if you went hell for leather, actually do this course, if you did nothing else, for 1 week. But we think it will probably take you a month of working on it around about 1 day a week, or possibly 2 days a week if you want to take a little longer with it. So yeah, that sort of thing really helps people. The thing I want you to think about is, how have you tested this? Is this something you've just magicked up out of your imagination? Or is this something that you know because you've had other people beta test or soak test your course? I strongly recommend that you get people to beta test your course. These are people who are the type of person who is likely to want to be your student. It's no good getting your auntie to do it. It's no good getting your best friend to do it, because they may not be your target audience. And if they are not your target audience, they won't be engaged, and you will therefore not get a realistic response as to how long the course has taken them. Okay, so and the other thing is establish guidelines for communication. That is essentially how people are going to contact you. So this comes under the banner of boundaries. Protect your time by setting some parameters. What time of the day will you respond? Will you have office hours? How long will it take you to respond? Create a quiz. This is a really sneaky but very neat way of doing things. Create a quiz in your course regarding course guidelines and expectations, and get your students to do the quiz early on. It ensures that they've looked at your guidelines and they know exactly what your expectations are and what they have to do in order to be compliant with your course. And it familiarizes your learners with assessments on your platform. So it's actually quite a neat little thing to do. Something that's also very important, bear with me a sec. Cup of tea. Nothing quite like it in the afternoon, is there? Okay, it's digital citizenship. Now, one of the really important things in this day and age, where we've got things like trolls and people saying horrid things to other people online, because you've got this anonymity, you've got this almost kind of dissociative thing that goes on, and it can be pretty ghastly. So it's all about being good digital citizens. What you have to do is to share your expectations regarding digital citizenship. Communicate those expectations about appropriate behaviours in online forums and discussions. You've got to explain to people how to respect other people's privacy. Teach them how to be a responsible online learner. Let them know that you won't tolerate any bullying or inappropriate behaviours, language or images. And now this is something I really have to call a lot of people out on, because I don't think there's anybody here in this group would ever do this, but watch out for people who get into your groups and are finding ways in through the back door to harvest people into their MLM or network marketing downlines. This drives me absolutely batty. It really does, and it will happen. So watch out for that. There's an awful lot of people. I mean, don't forget that when people get involved in many MLMs, it almost becomes like a sort of a brainwashing system where they really truly actually do believe that the product that they are selling really is fantastically, phenomenally brilliant, and maybe some of them are. But the point is that it destroys any group energy you may have going in your group, because if people are in there trying to sell them things and trying to recruit them into MLM downlines, your work, your hard work will be for naught. Your group will be destroyed. So watch out for that. One of the best ways of actually finding out whether any of that is happening is by being upfront about it and getting your students to tell you immediately if they are ever approached by anybody recruiting into their downline. Okay. Next thing is we've got to establish learning outcomes. It's extremely important to establish learning outcomes. So what is it that you want your learners to learn from your course? And how will you know that they have successfully mastered the content? This is especially important in an online learning environment where learners need more self-direction, because you're not there standing over them. You can't really tell what they're actually picking up. And so it's crucial that you have ways of measuring this. I suggest you develop 5 to 8 learning outcomes. This should be sufficient. Be sure that the outcomes align with your overall curriculum. Each outcome should include what it is that they need to accomplish. So when you're creating your learning outcomes, select appropriate action verbs that are observable and measurable in order to determine whether your learner has successfully mastered the required outcome. Determine whether your learning outcomes are knowledge-based or skill-based and include some of each. At this point, I would love you to consider Bloom's taxonomy. If you haven't come across it, this is what it is. Now, I'm not going to spend ages and ages on this because I am going to give you this presentation so that you can look at this at your leisure. But working from the bottom up, when you're teaching, the first thing that you want people to be able to do is to gather knowledge. It includes things like recall of information, discovery, observation, listing, locate, and naming. Very, very basic stuff. And on through comprehension, application, how to apply things. Higher learning skills include things like analysis. Even higher skills include synthesis. And eventually, the highest form of learning includes things like evaluation, accessing theories, comparison, evaluating, solving, recommending. All of those verbs imply an evaluation level of learning and understanding. So as you move up the diagram, you move to higher order learning skills. That's essentially it. So moving through to eventually things like compare and contrast and so on and so on. I'll let you look at all of that and evaluate that at your leisure because it's quite in depth. It's really useful. So the next thing we need to think about is establishing scope and sequence. Organize your course carefully, determining the scope and sequence that will ensure that you're able to cover all the required content within the time that you have allocated. I personally break up my courses into modules, and the students can see exactly how many modules there are in each course and exactly what those modules include. It makes for a better user experiences and manages their expectations. We're also going to think about tracking progress. Again, because you're not there standing over them, you've got to utilize different styles and various styles of testing and questions. I suggest incorporating multiple choice, free text, so it's along the lines of asking an open-ended question that they then have to type an answer to. Questions and answers, maybe have an online question and answer session, which is always useful. All of this helps you to monitor and understand their progress, and it helps them to do the same thing as well. Now, going back to LMSs, your learning platform, Kajabi, Teachable, or whatever, all of those have all of this inbuilt, and they are super easy to set up. Students know how well they're doing, and you can really figure out what their knowledge is and identify any gaps in their knowledge. So let's look at how we engage our learners. Let's think about the fact that we've got to help our students to feel safe and comfortable, help them feel appreciated, and help them feel challenged as well. Nobody wants to do a course that is so basic that it doesn't, I mean, they'll be saying to you, I want my money back, I know this is ridiculous. You've got to keep them challenged. It's very important, which is why it's important to monitor your training and your students as you go through your course. Make sure that your learners aren't just consuming content in order to regurgitate it for an exam at the end. They should be able to apply the knowledge to real life situations. So go back to Bloom's taxonomy to look at all of the information there. And it does help. I know it looks complicated, but it does help to sort of get your head around ways that you can get people to apply information. A great way to accomplish learning is to engage your students throughout the learning process. So how do we engage? Well, we've got to provide different types of learning to hit all of those different learning styles, as I said earlier. One of the things I want you to think about is, what is it you're offering to your students? And is your entire student body, are they all able to access all of your files? Share common file types that learners will be able to access. So, for example, there's no point in sending a Word document, because if you do that and your student is working on a Mac and they haven't downloaded and paid for Microsoft Word, chances are they may not be able to read that file if they're looking at it in Pages. Some will, some won't. I always believe in going for the lowest common denominator as far as technology is concerned. So what I mean by that is just making sure that you're using the most simple thing that everybody can actually open, everybody can read, everybody can listen to, everybody can view. So I always suggest sharing your documents in a PDF format. Audio files should be in an MP3 format, because they actually can be listened to and downloaded very easily on Macs, on PCs, on tablets and phones and so on. Easy peasy. Also, the added advantage of creating MP3 files is that it's a smaller file size as well. So that helps. It speeds up downloads, it again improves your user experience. With video, I suggest sharing MP4 files. Most devices can open MP4s. Again, it's a smaller compressed file. So it means that you're not going to be broadcasting at 4K, 5K, or really super ultra high definition. But you know what? That doesn't matter for online courses. Because if you did, it would really slow down the download experience. You may have people that don't even have enough bandwidth to be able to cope with those sorts of files. So I just say go with smaller compressed files. Now here's a really useful tip. If your file is not in the correct format, use a tool like Online Convert, which allows you to upload a file in one format and convert it and save it to another format. That's a golden golden nugget right there. See, you're finding this is very useful, aren't you? Yes. Okay, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. This is something I'm really, really keen on making sure everybody does. We've got to think about our learners with disabilities, because chances are that not everybody is completely able-bodied. So what about deaf students? Well, here at the CMA, we put out an awful lot of videos onto our YouTube channels, up on into our newsletters, up on the CMA website, and so on. So we always religiously do closed captioning. So those are those subtitles at the bottom of the screen. And we also get a transcription of we transcribe the videos. So all of the words that are spoken in the video are then actually transcribed and are available under the video. So always use closed captioning on your videos, hugely important. For blind students or those who don't see so well, use alt tags describing your images. Now, whenever you put an image up online, there's usually a little pop-up that says either more or advanced. Click on that. What will happen is that a little box should come up, and you should be able to put in a description of the picture that's in your on your learning platform in your course. Now, the reason why that's so important is because if a person can't see the picture, they can mouse over it, and then they can actually get an audio description according to the information you've put into that box. So it will be, let's say, a picture of a young boy with a blue jumper on holding a red balloon, right? So if the person can't see it, they now know what's on that screen. Set your platform up with appropriate headers, image descriptions, and links so they can be read by a screen reader. Most of the learning platforms or LMSs have these. For example, I use a Mac, so I use something called VoiceOver if I'm working with people who can't see. If you hit Command and F5, what will happen is that a box comes up and it says launch VoiceOver, and you say yes, and it starts reading your screen for you. Now, in order for that to work, you've got to actually make sure that your website or your learning management system is set up correctly. If you use a professional one, again, this is all about not reinventing the wheel, that will actually happen automatically for you. So it's another thing, one less thing for you to have to worry about. And for colorblind students, for example, don't use unique colored fonts or fancy fonts and so on when creating resources. Make sure that you've got really good high contrast fonts. Avoid referring to items by color, such as the red folder or the blue folder, that sort of thing, because if you do, chances are they'll be looking at the screen going, I haven't got a clue what this person's talking about. So folder A or folder 1, that sort of thing. So don't guide people with words about color, because it may not work for your learner. Okay, so finally, I hope I've given you lots of really useful information here. I hope it gives you a better understanding of teaching online and the confidence and insight to get started. I recommend a few next steps before you get started teaching online. Continue to learn more. Look out for more training courses that I'll be putting up online that take a deeper dive into topics like this. So I'd also like you to spend some time thinking about which topics you would like to cover, that you would like to teach, how to find your target audience, and how to think about how to speak their language. There's so much more to it than that. Now remember, in Jayney Goddard Masterclass is my closed Facebook group, which is all about practice development and so on. I've got all of those amazing videos and all of those wonderful files that I've made for you that teach you how to find your target audience, how to find your avatar. Honestly, everybody, all of the information is already there for you. I know a lot of those talk about how to find your best and most ideal clients, but it's just the same. The process is just the same when you're thinking about finding learners. So go back over all of that and take a look at some of those files. Okay. Take a deep dive into the world of learning management systems to see which best suits your needs. I personally use Teachable, basically because I find it really, really quick and easy to use. And use me as a resource. I'm here to help you. You know, this is what the CMA is here for. You know, we're a non-profit organisation run by practitioners for practitioners and colleges and training schools and. So please, please, please use us, use our knowledge. Don't be a stranger. Don't forget that it's a two-way street. We put loads of information out to you. What we would love you to do is to use us as a resource, ask us questions, and don't forget the other thing that we really are happy to do is to help you to promote your work. So if you do spend all this time putting a beautiful course together, get it registered with the CMA, and then we can help you to publicize it. Okay, so that's what we're here for. So don't be a stranger. Okay, so finally, thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget, we're going to have questions and answers. Connect with me over at my private Facebook development group, as I said, Jayney Goddard Masterclasses, at the CMA, at the CMA Facebook page, and our private members group, at the CMA and Jayney Goddard YouTube channels. Email me, and as I say, obviously I'm sure most of you have my email address. If you don't, then obviously it's here in this lovely presentation that you will be getting. The CMA office, I know that you probably have the email address, the telephone numbers, but if not, here they are. And of course, always the CMA website. At this point also, I know many of you have responded incredibly kindly to the survey that we sent out to our members yesterday. I cannot thank you enough for those amazing responses. They were so unbelievably helpful. We asked, you spoke, we listened, we will be actioning so much of what you said. So thank you so much for doing that. If you didn't get it, let us know and we'll send it to you. It's a really short little survey. And, you know, it's really, really helpful because it helps us shape the future of the Complementary Medical Association in the way that you want it to be shaped. So, you know, do participate in that. Let us know if you didn't get it, we'll resend it to you. Finally, I just want to show you this copyright notice. Remember, you've got to copyright your courses. Very important. Feel free to cannibalize this copyright notice. Everything on this course, of course, is copyrighted, and don't forget that the CMA logo is a registered trademark, and so nobody else is allowed to use it except for us, and when you are legally using it on your certificates, on your websites and so on, because you're actually a member. Okay, so, right, let me just, right, that's that. Let me stop sharing my, okay, I'm back. Okay, fantastic. So everybody, this is amazing. I can see loads and loads and loads of questions. Right, let me go through the chat and let me see. Okay. Oh, thanks. Yes, there should be a button to mute everyone. I did try it, but we nearly got there. We nearly got there, but we had other people coming in sort of halfway through. So do you know what, though? It worked perfectly. If you would like to ask any questions, just pop them in the bottom there. I'm going to be scrolling down and I'm going to see. Right, okay. Lovely answers. Thank you. I did ask who's actually offering online courses. I got yeses and nos. So lots of you are, which is really helpful. So I hope that what I've shared with you today has added thoughts for you for your online courses. I really do hope that that's the case. You know, I always believe that you can always learn something new. And I believe that you can keep improving. There's a, it's called Kaizen, isn't it? The Japanese art of making small incremental improvements to gain a big overall growth. So that's what I'm hoping that we're all going to be doing here. And for those of you who aren't offering online courses yet, I really hope that this has been really helpful for you. But again, I need you to tell me, because obviously this is the whole point of saying, you know, I'm here teaching my little heart out, but if I don't know how you're feeling about things, then it's not going to help me shape what I'm offering you. So, right, let's have a little look at and see other questions. Right. Okay, lovely, lovely responses.
Jayney?
Yes.
May I ask on behalf of someone the best font to use in slides and other sort of documents and things?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. Okay. Okay, that's a great question. Thank you, Roberta. Everybody, that was Roberta Macmillan. Many of you know Roberta very, very, very well. You know Roberta, but you may not know that her actual name is Wonder Woman. That's what we call her in the CMA. Okay, because she is literally Wonder Woman. Roberta is the CMA Vice President of Membership, and she's going to have been with the CMA for 17 years this year. She deserves a medal. In fact, more than a medal. So anyway, but yeah, thanks, Roberta. That's a really, really great question. The research shows that, funnily enough, I'm actually a font geek. So I really actually know the answer to this question. Online, fonts that are sans serif work better for legibility. That means that they are fonts that don't have the little curlicues. Are you familiar with the Arial font? I think most people are familiar with Arial. It's very plain. It's very sort of linear, and it doesn't have little bits that sort of hang off the end. Those little bits that sort of almost join one letter to the next, those are called serifs. In written documentation, though, research has been done. And, you know, I always only tell you research-based things, unless I say it's my opinion. So the research has actually been done that shows that serif fonts, like Times New Roman, are easier to read on paper. Now, I recommend, because of eye strain and accessibility, that if you have written components in your courses, you make them into, as I said earlier, PDFs, because most people can actually work with PDFs. And I do suggest you allow people to download and print those out, because it makes it a lot easier for people to read. Furthermore, the Baskerville type font, Baskerville, like the Hound of the Baskervilles, has been shown to be the font that most people find the most authoritative would you believe? So if you ever want to write something that people go, oh gosh, this is a very serious document, this is very authoritative, and oh, this person knows what they're talking about, use Baskerville. That's your tip of the day. So yeah, on screen, sans serif, in writing, font, serif fonts. Yes. Sorry, Roberta, carry on.
No, that was why I was just saying thank you. I've also put in the chat, would anyone with any specific questions, they're getting a bit lost in the chat, if they could perhaps email them to us as well?
Absolutely, yes, of course. No, I'll tell you what, actually, Roberta, what we'll do, even better, because otherwise we'll be dealing with emails here, there, and everywhere. Don't email them. Go onto Facebook, okay? Go into, if you haven't already joined Jayney Goddard Masterclasses, go and look for it, okay? It's my name, Jayney, Jayney, bizarre spelling, Jayney Goddard, Goddard. Then Masterclasses is all one word, because I'm fancy like that. Go onto Facebook, search on that, apply, click apply to join the group. We'll let you in, and then ask your question there. Roberta, would you be, if people hop off and do that now, would you be able to nip in there and just put a thread? So just say Jayney's webinar, Jayney's course webinar thread. And if you can create a thread like that, then everybody can ask their question under that thread. It keeps everything together and we'll be able to answer your questions directly. Does that make sense to everybody? Does that sound good, Roberta?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, lovely. All righty, so questions. Jayney, are the slides going to be shared? Yes, they are. We'll give you a link to the slides in the Jayney Goddard Masterclasses Facebook group, okay? Right, are there some things you just can't do online? You would not go to a dentist who was trained online? Absolutely. That's a very good question. Yes, there are certain things that you can't do online, and our insurers are very adamant about this. So, for instance, we do not believe that you can offer a massage training to somebody who has never done massage as an online training course. I wouldn't go to a masseur who has trained online without actually being able to touch bodies and being assessed by somebody. But the point is that what you can do is you can learn the theory in a hands-on therapy. You can learn the theory online, and then you need to have a live assessment. So that would need to be done post-COVID. But what you can do is, if you are teaching, if you are a hands-on practitioner, you're teaching something like reflexology, or if you're teaching something like massage, if you want to do a CPD course, for example, that you're marketing to other practitioners, then what you can do is take a really technical element of massage that you can talk about from your sphere of expertise. Perhaps you can talk about, let's say, baby massage. So you can, if you're marketing it to other qualified practitioners, you can create a course that's all about baby massage, for example, if that's your bag, and it can be completely theoretical and delivered online. So that's, you know, but that's because you are dealing with people who are already qualified. Does that make sense? Okay. Where you've got theoretical type of disciplines, let's say like nutrition, where you are a person who doesn't need to put your hands on another person, all theoretical disciplines, of course, can be taught online. So it's nicer to have face-to-face, but you can do face-to-face in this kind of a way. So again, those of you whose expertise is non-hands-on have the advantage during COVID, but equally, those of you who are hands-on can pivot to find other things that you can teach. For example, if you are, let's say, an energy medicine practitioner, I say that because I've just seen my lovely friend Dan Kahn pop up. Hi Dan, I see you're here. You know, for example, if you're teaching an energy medicine discipline, have a think about what it is that you can teach your students to do, or teach your graduates to do, to go out there and to share with their clients. Can you teach meditations? Can you teach DIY energy healing? Can you teach self-administered healing touch? Yes, you can. We can all teach all of these things. So use your imagination. Think about how you can pivot. Okay, more questions. Right, okay. What if you don't like using Facebook? Well, you know what? It's a business tool. If you don't like using it, you don't have to use it, but if you don't use it, you're missing a major, major trick. It's one of the most important business tools out there from the perspective that it helps you to work with people in your groups. If you create groups, you know, you don't even have to look at all of the other rubbish on Facebook, all of the other unsubstantiated claims, all of the unattributed nonsense, all the political stuff, etc., etc. Just use it as a tool. Don't get hung up about it. If you don't use it, then I think you're missing out. Okay. Are there other interactive ways other than Facebook? Not really, no. Facebook is the best way for what I've been talking about. You could on your teaching platform, if you use something like Teachable or Kajabi, there are ways of interacting with your students. Underneath modules, for example, you know, they can post questions and you can answer them. But I think the immediacy of Facebook and the ability for students to interact and support each other is superior. So use it as a very, very excellent tool. When you understand how to do it, it's excellent. Somebody said MailChimp. I don't know why you're asking MailChimp. That's Jamie Hedger. Why are you asking about MailChimp? Let me know below, because MailChimp is a mailing sending system. Learning management systems like Kajabi and Kajabi and Teachable actually have the ability to mail all your students. We at the CMA use MailChimp to send out our emails. We've just started using it and migrated away from our old mailing system. MailChimp's a very, very good mailing system. We're actually really liking it, finding it very easy to use. We sent out that brilliant survey yesterday and found it super, super fast. Although my lovely colleague Megan, also known as Batgirl, we all have nicknames. They don't tell me what my nickname is, and I think it's probably best I don't know. But anyway, you know, so we use MailChimp for our mailing system. As I say, it's got so many tools. It's not a teaching system, though. So don't think of it and don't expect it to be a teaching system, but it's a very, very good way of building a mailing list. Okay. Right, okay. Yep. Lots of people say, to answer questions about MailChimp. Yep. Right. Okay, MailChimp is free and ensures GDPR compliance. MailChimp is only free if you've got a minuscule database.
I actually answered those questions,
Jayney, thanks, Roberta.
Up to save you some time.
Yes, you did. Oh, Roberta, you're such a superstar. Right, okay, lovely. How do you stop this other than asking them to leave the group? I know, this is the MLM thing, okay. Mm-hmm. What you do is, if it's a student who's paid you to be on a course, you just have a quiet word in their ear and say, don't do it. And remember, manage expectations, tell people what they can and can't do. You've got to specifically say no MLMs or network marketing. And if you are found to be attempting to recruit or harvest, as it's officially known nowadays in internet speak, you will be kicked off the course. Just be really open and honest about it. If you see it happening in your Facebook groups and so on, let the person know not to do it. I always believe give everybody a second chance. Don't be an ogre about it, because they may have missed that piece of information. They may be doing it in all innocence. But if it happens again, let them know that they've contravened a rule. Because when you set up groups, you can actually set up group rules, and we're really clear about saying no MLMs, no network marketing, do not recruit, do not try to sell anybody anything. You can only promote your work on Fridays. We have a thing that we've set up called Promo Fridays. You're only allowed to promote your services, your practice, your school, your event or whatever under that thread on a Friday only. Otherwise we delete it. We do it nicely, but we delete it. We're strict, because otherwise your entire group just becomes completely messy and totally unusable. So just be very strict about it. Right, okay, so yeah, just tell them, don't do it. And if they do it again, kick them out. Right, okay, let's just have a little look. Oh, Sandy had to go. Oh gosh, okay. Right, let's see. Yes, Ariel is the envelope. Right, okay. Sorry, Roberta, carry on.
I can just add in that the link is now up on the Jayney Goddard Masterclasses Facebook page.
Thank you, my love. That's so kind of you.
It wasn't me. It was Megan.
Was it Megan? Oh,
it was Megan.
She's so fast, isn't she? Megan, she does things fast from the speed of light, honestly. Right, okay. Let's just have a little look. Right, okay. Everybody seems to feel this has been quite helpful and informative. I really hope it has. Let me see if there are any... Okay, Sally didn't get the survey. Sally, let us know, email us and we'll make sure you get the survey resent. Let me see, right, anything else? Just have a lovely little...
How to charge for courses is a question towards the end, Jayney.
Okay, love, let me... okay, all right, so yes, how to charge for courses? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? I think everybody in complementary medicine undercharges. Also, what happens is when you're in practice and when you're teaching courses and in life in general, people tend to value things by the amount that we charge for them. It's really, it's unfortunate, but it's human nature. So the reason we pay this extortionate amount of money for a bottle of Chanel perfume, and obviously I'm using that very loosely, you know, whatever it is, it's a luxury item. The reason people pay extortionate money for luxury items is not because those items are any different. A bottle of Chanel, the contents of a bottle of Chanel perfume are chemically not very different from a bottle of Charlie. Remember Charlie from the 70s? I used to wear it at school. You know, it's just water with a few chemicals in it. But it's the cachet, it's the marketing, it's the presentation, it's that chic black and white box with the interlinked C's. It's the cachet that brand has built that is synonymous with quality and excellence over the years. So it's down to you to build a brand that people know is reliable, is excellent, offers the very highest quality. Your brand values, I want you to go away, think about your brand values and how you're going to communicate that. This is so crucial. Do you know, I probably should actually do a webinar on branding. It's so crucial to growing your business. So the idea is that if your brand is perceived to be valuable, people will be willing to pay more for it. Simple. But you can't just set something up and think and just position it as a good brand. You've got to deliver as well. It's one of the reasons we sent out the questionnaire yesterday, is because we are committed to constantly innovating. We're a non-profit organization. We're in this because we totally, completely, and utterly believe in what we're doing here. We are dedicated. Roberta's been with us for 17 years. I've founded the CMA it's 27 years of my life that I've dedicated to this organization and to practitioners and training schools, because we believe in what we're doing. And I think that's why the CMA is the world's largest professional membership association. That's our brand value. That's where we're coming from. It's about excellence. It's about professionalism. If you can get that across, you'll be able to charge whatever you feel is the value of your course. So I can't tell you what to charge, but only you know that. And don't just go on what other people are charging, because your value is whatever you perceive your value to be. You may be teaching a course on nutrition, and there may be somebody else down the road or elsewhere on the internet also teaching a course on nutrition. But let's say you specialize in a particular angle and very, very niche part of nutrition for a very niche particular type of clientele, then you've got to value yourself accordingly. That's crucial. So valuing, branding, and so on, so important. I think we may actually, if you would like me to, let me know, we may need to do another webinar on that. Okay, somebody else is saying it's going to take a while to digest all this info. Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. I always over deliver, but you'll have the recording so you can actually go over it and ask any questions. Somebody's asked, what are the CMA requirements for submitting and approving an online course for approval? Right, okay. So what you do is write up your syllabus and submit it to us. We then look at it very, very carefully. If we're happy with what you're offering, so we need to know exactly what it is you're teaching, who you're teaching it to, so who your target audience is, we need to know how long your course is, we need to know what your prerequisites are for your course. Is this a course that's going out to beginners? Is it a course that's going out to other professionals? Is it a CPD course? Do you want us to register it for CPD? All of those parameters, let us know exactly what you're doing. If there's anything that we look at and we go, okay, you probably ought to think about adding this in, or gosh, you've added way too much information in this bit, you could maybe trim that down a bit. If you want to, we would never prescribe if you're over delivering. If you're under delivering, we will say, actually, that won't get past the insurers, add this in, add this in, add this in. We're here, use our expertise. The other thing is, again, to bear in mind for online training is if it's a hands-on training that you are offering to complete beginners, you are going to have at some point a hands-on face-to-face training. It's very, very important. And I know we're all professionals, we're all coming from the same place, and I know we all totally understand that. Okay, I hope that helps. Right, let's have a wee look. Lovely. Any questions? Any further questions? Right.
Lots of requests for a branding webinar.
Oh, really? Oh, lovely. Okay. Right, so I'm just looking down, guys. I haven't left you. I'm not looking to the side thinking, I wonder what to do next. Do you know, I've got another load of interviews after this. I've been doing amazing. Check out my YouTube channel and the CMA YouTube channel. You will not believe some of the people that we've got on there that I've interviewed, the experts, and it was all about living well and surviving during COVID, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Right, okay, yes to the branding, right. Okay, guys, well, I think we know what we're doing next. I shall love you and leave you because we're coming to the end of this. Are there any final questions, or are you all now? Yes, yes. Going to go over to the Facebook group? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're going to join me there, and I'm going to meet you there. I'm going to finish this now, finish the recording, and meet you there. And we'll carry on, and we'll just make sure. Bear in mind, I have got some more interviews, so if I don't get right back to you today, it's because I've got interviews up the wazoo till about 9 o'clock tonight. Okay, guys. Mwah! Lots and lots of love, and I shall see you in the group. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.